Welcome to another episode of Confessions of a Career Coach with Elena Agar. Today's confession is that I often, throughout my years of life on this planet, forget how privileged I am to do the work that I do, to have the access to the opportunities that I have access to, and to just be able to do this job because it's not a real thing in many countries around the world. So, for those of you who know my story, I grew up in Russia, came to the US at the age of 13, had all the opportunities in the world to get a job as early as 15, grow into my field. And today what I do is talent development. So basically what that means is I'm in charge of like bringing people on board at companies, making sure they stay there, hopefully maintain their, sanity in the company, help them develop, grow, so on, and really just help the business grow. Because without the people, it's very hard for companies to grow, evolve, and so on. Until AI takes us all over, which is a whole other conversation, and not an expert in it, but we'll see how that turns out. But the point of me telling you this is that it's my job, this talent development role is not really relevant in many countries. And I travel a lot. I've probably been to like 40 plus countries so far, maybe close to 50 at this point in my life. And then what I've noticed, especially in the last few years that I've been traveling, is that in many, many countries around the world, this topic of like, finding and creating this career that you love, growing in a corporate world is just not an option, nor is it a reality, nor is it a want or a need for many, many people around the world. And I kind of feel silly every time I come back to the States and do my job, although I find it important. I see the impact it makes on other people. Around the world, there are people that, just want to make a living. And sure, there's people, of course, in the US that just want to do that. And we have our own issues in the US and so on. Totally. But I don't think we appreciate being in America, the access to opportunities we have, relatively speaking. And sure, we can go back to, well, there could be more opportunities in the US, and there's a lot of inequality still and all of that. Yes. But when you look at other countries, and these can be like developed countries, the opportunities first of all, to corporate jobs are very limited, very limited. And even then, if you're in a corporate job, this whole notion of like learning and development, talent development, career coaching, mentorship in organizations, almost non-existent. Culture is so strong in certain countries where nobody really cares. Like culturally, that's just not how things work. There's none of that your manager investing in you, or you really trying to be a good leader for the people. It's all hierarchical, if it's at all existent, right? And sometimes you're just there to do a job. Forget about trying to, diversify your skill set. You're just there to do a job. You're not meant to enjoy what you do, and so on. And so the point of me telling this is that, as I'm in this field and I see, and I have a lot of conversations with talent from all generations about what companies should and shouldn't do for their staff, how work should and shouldn't be done. And I just want us to collectively pause and recognize that having that conversation alone, like just being able to be like, I wish my company was investing in me a little bit more, is such a privilege. And listen, we can go down the rabbit hole of like, well, Elena, we are a developed country and the US is a rich country and so on and so forth. And there's a lot, and these corporations are making tons of money. Yes, all of that is true. But all those other corporations in other countries also make a ton of money, and they don't have the same privileges that we have as employees in this country, right? Or even being able to start a business, which is another privilege on its own, just to be able to start a business and not be threatened by external factors or mafias or cartels or so on that are so realistic in other parts of the world. Anyway, not to go down the rabbit hole, but I was thinking about it. I've spent the last couple months in different places, traveling and exploring. And as I walked around, and I'm like, I feel so silly doing my job sometimes. And that's the confession, because it is such a privileged world. And so when I come back, and also having grown up in Russia, where still to this day, this whole notion of like, find what you want to do it's just not a thing. Like, it's just not a thing. Like, you're happy if you just have a job and a steady paycheck and you can afford life. Like, that's enough. And it's all about perspective. And I know it's all relative, and I understand that. But I just think there's something we can take away from, the fact that we do have a lot that we have access to. And is it really the system? And many times it is, yes. Or is it you that is not, progressing, that is not willing to do what it takes, that is not taking advantage of the opportunities that are available to you, right? And that also brings me to a point that when foreigners come to America, majority of foreigners that come to America end up working very hard, but also many become very successful because once they see the privileges and the access to opportunities, again, relatively speaking, yes, they're like, what's going on? Is this true? Like, can I really have all these different things and all these access and all these opportunities? And on top of that, benefits and all that good stuff that comes with a cushy corporate job, or even just working at any regular um, non-corporate career. And I think maybe if we just remembered how lucky we are in many aspects, maybe we'd see opportunities versus picking on things that we wish would had, like fully remote, or having to work 9 to 5. I mean, don't even get me started on the Gen Z's videos that are coming out, guys. Really, if you're Gen Z, please, can we just put some perspective on it? And better yet, if you can afford it, which many people probably can't afford to travel, because if you spend tons of money on brunch or flights to Miami, it is cheaper to go to another country. Literally, do yourself a favor, book an international trip and see how other people live. Like I said, I've been to many different countries, and I never appreciate US more than when I go to these different countries and I see certain things, and there are beautiful places and beautiful people everywhere, of course. Like, I'm so appreciative of every culture and everything out there. But it gives you perspective. And I just wish, we could see that perspective. And I'm not saying it's going to make all your problems in the US, whatever you're dealing with, go away, and the systems are still a mess and all that good stuff. But I promise you, if you just go with an open mind, you'd be surprised how much access you have in America compared to other countries. We have our own issues, sure, but I just want us to just collectively be more grateful for certain things that we have, because so many people wish they had that, right? So many people wish they had that. And again, I know there's probably people like, well, this is America, and yada yada. Yes, but when I hear people complain about the stupidest shit at work, or these insignificant things that just like don't even matter on the larger scale of life, or like, if you're making already 6 figures and you're complaining because your gym membership didn't get reimbursed that month, or you don't get your, work from home allowance that month, or something like that, whatever, I don't know, whatever insignificant small thing that people complain about on a weekly basis. First of all, don't be that person. Like, just don't be that person. um, you know and just reflect on that. That's all I have to say. This wasn't really a planned conversation, honestly. I didn't really plan this episode, but it's something that I see every time I travel, and I just came back a couple of days ago, and it's just something to think about. That's all I have to say about that. So let me know your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts on this episode.